The Young Turks. I'm constantly bombarded by church bells. It's one funny thing about living in a small town in Germany. They celebrate every 15 minutes and remind you that they're there. 15 minutes have passed, let's ring the bells. Crazy. I'm here to talk to you about the Young Turks and about how I hate them, but more specifically about how I don't hate all of them. Now let's run down the list. I won't even bother telling you how and why I hate Cenk Uygur. I mean, just take a look at the guy for a split second and it pretty much goes without saying. I will mention that more and more, as each day passes, Cenk looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger's character from Total Recall when he goes out into the Mars atmosphere. Okay, do you remember how his body begins to explode? His eyes pop out of his skull? Cenk Uygur looks very much like that. Now, for all you ad hominem pussies out there, that's not why he's wrong. He's wrong for every other reason imaginable, which I go over in great detail. But let's look at the other people. Now, we got Anna Kasparian, who, honestly, I haven't really been listening to what she's been saying because of these midgets that she's been smuggling for the past decade. I know she's nice and well-meaning, and she's just a good little regressive puppy dog. And I'm really not focused on what she's saying. I don't take her that seriously, to be honest. I mean, Anna Kasparian is to a journalist what a 10-year-old girl with a hairbrush is to Taylor Swift. I mean, these are wannabes. These are amateurs. These people did not earn their jobs. They were given their jobs because they mimic and parrot the regressive talking points. They have been trained. They're like automated, sort of robotic people who are just going to spit out the talking points. It reminds me of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, at the end of the Pirates of the Caribbean, the guy's always going to say, yo ho, a pirate's life for me. I mean, he was programmed to say that. Anyway, listen. You got this guy, John. Don't even know his last name. It's good. He might as well be called John Doe. Because he is the most vanilla, bland, just regressive meat puppet I've ever seen. This guy's been hand-selected out of college. Just like, hey, little buddy, you're going to matter in this world. Here's a microphone. Now just say this. This guy is just, I mean, it's almost like he's living in the regressive matrix. Just as pussified as you could ever want to be. Oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, the other day they were talking about, like, sex issues. They were talking about, like, I don't know, should this commercial use hot women? And John made the very feminist point where he's like, look, if they put hot guys in a commercial, I don't think I'd have a problem with it. And I was just like, I went into an epileptic cringe fiesta. I mean, what straight male uses the term hot guys? It was just the most false, and he does it because he thinks that's equal. He's like, well, I did mention a hot girl, so I should probably just mention hot guys now. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally normal. That's, yay, feminism. It's so fucking retarded. Dude, John, you're a straight male. I forbid you to use the term hot guys. Good Lord. Ugh, douche chills all the time with that guy. Then you got Ben Mankiewicz. Now, Ben is a self-hating Jew. Fun fact. Ben is a sniveling, cowardly, regressive, pat himself on the back, thinks he's saving the world, social justice cunt who is afraid to punch a midget. Now, I have no fear in punching a midget. I will gangbang a midget. Okay, quote me on that. Not in a sexual way, in a violent way. If the midget deserves it. Because I do not condescend to the midget, or the powerless, or the downtrodden, the minorities. This guy is such a noble fucking... You know what I love about him is when he gets upset. He adjusts the glasses on his face and he gets, I get into this Jewy little fucking rage. Just, I'm gonna get those whites. I'm gonna get those conservatives. I'm so regressive. And you'll see that in a clip coming up. And then you got Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is just the most painfully unfunny. He has like some sort of Tourette's syndrome of the tongue. And his tongue is just not working in unison with his brain and his mouth. And it just slips out of his crusty mouth in the most disgusting lizard-like manner. I cannot stand Jimmy Dore. Forget what he's saying. The content of what he's saying is an abortion. Just everything about this guy oozes awkward. The man's the drunk uncle that you never wanted, but now you got. and now he's touching you, and he's sticking his tongue out. Fuck Jimmy Dore. And then you got this guy. A guy goes by the name of Dave Rubin. A guy who makes so much goddamn sense that he left the Young Turks. Because he could see the bullshit and hysteria and the fact that he doesn't want to be associated with that organization. This is a guy who confronted the people on the Young Turks time after time, called them out. This is the guy that you put in your echo chamber if you want your echo chamber to come tumbling down. And this is the guy that made the content on the Young Turks interesting to watch, because he brought not only just a different perspective, the correct perspective, to challenge the idiocy that was being purported by the fucking Turks. He was amazing. And now he's gone. Oh, he didn't go into oblivion. His Rubin Report channel does extremely well, has tens of thousands. He has like 80,000 subscribers. But now he's working alongside this guy, Larry King, on something called Aura TV. And he is a member of this network of channels, producing content and giving a perspective that we sorely need. I support Dave Rubin, this atheist gay man of Jewish descent. I stand behind him. Not in a gay way. That's no homo. So don't start, making insinuations. But when it comes to Dave Rubin's ideas, it's yes homo. Because the guy is right on point. Let's watch this exchange in the aftermath of the Charlie Hebdo attacks, where where little Benny Mankiewicz raised his hand in class and decided to point a finger at Charlie Hebdo and say, "How dare you make fun of Islam? You're making fun of Islam more than everybody else, and I don't like it." And guess who spoke up and said, "Ben, you're fucking wrong." Let's watch.
But the fact is we've seen from the 1.7 billion Muslims, I got it. And we're talking about, look, I'll combine things that you feel strongly about.
Okay.
The right of satirists to express themselves, and the right for maybe the least powerful group of people on the planet to have fucking rubbed in their face again and again and again. Mm-hmm. And if we're at the same breath going to acknowledge that the overwhelming 99.9 or 8% of Muslims, 99.9% of Muslims aren't terrorists, many of them are also like, hey man, stop mocking my faith. Stop being comfortable mocking my faith. It's the only faith that we're totally comfortable mocking.
But that's just not true, though, because the magazine went after, Google it right now.
No, they didn't really. They didn't. That's
They
bullshit.
absolutely did.
95% of what they did is Muslims.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it
They did
is.
the exact same amount of stuff. I can't say that it's the exact same amount.
We just read it today. We read the same article.
They did plenty of stuff about Jews. They did so maybe it wasn't the exact same. But is that the world you want to live in, where the magazine should all have the same exact percentage of 33.3%?
I'm just saying why I don't think it was funny.
Religion.
I don't want to show a naked
course,
Shintoist in this episode.
Whether it's funny or not is a moot point, because you're still allowed to be free. You still have freedom of expression, whether it's funny or not.
First of all, look at the stupefied look of these other regressive idiots. Jimmy Dore and John Doe. Look at them. They're paralyzed. They're like, oh my God, this guy's breaking protocol. Who is this motherfucker? This guy's challenging Ben Mankiewicz, one of the founders of this regressive flagship. Holy shit, on TV. The cameras are on, dude. This is the guy that signs your checks. What the fuck are you doing? Cenk's not gonna like this. And look at that, animated, look at that regressive rage right there. He's like, no. Charlie Hebdo does 95% of its articles on Islam. Charlie Hebdo does 95% of its articles on Islam. Now, this is a perfect example of confirmation bias. So what happened in the Charlie Hebdo aftermath? Well, you saw the Muhammad cartoons a lot. Because that's the reason why these fucking savages came in and killed these people. So what did the news agencies show? They showed the 4 or 5 covers that Charlie Hebdo did that mocked Islam. It didn't mock Islam just for the sake of it. They had a point, a political slant, an angle. They were saying something. It was incisive commentary and protected under free speech. Dave Rubin comes in with an amazing point, which is, no, it wasn't all about Islam. They covered everything. And they did not spend more time talking about Islam. Now, let's look at the actual facts. Uh-oh. Now, that's a problem. That's a problem, because when you bring evidence into it, when you're dealing with a social justice warrior who wants to protect the downtrodden, the poor Muslims, you do not want to hear about evidence. So if I were to present this evidence live to Benny Mankiewicz, he might go into that Jewy little awkward rage that you just saw, or he might do something like this. Okay, here's a little information for you might want to consider, guys. News agency who purports things to be true. Yesterday's issue of Le Monde featured an opinion piece by two sociologists who looked at cartoon covers of Charlie Hebdo over a period of 10 years. Contrary to what many commentators have said, especially in the United States, their exhaustive study showed that only a small percentage of covers involved Islam. 7% strictly about Islam. 3 times as many covers targeted Christianity. The main focus of the publication was on political figures. The two sociologists also conclude, as most people in France know, that Charlie Hebdo was a left-leaning, anti-racist publication, albeit very rude and irreverent in the way it expressed itself. I would add a personal observation. Charlie Hebdo did not target Muslims or Christians, nor their religious beliefs. Instead, it rightly took aim at the hypocrites who would justify their outrageous acts under the cloak of religious belief. That might have offended some people, but the right to offend people is fundamental to free speech. Now, wait a minute. It's not 7%. Apparently this guy doesn't know how to read a graph, because this graph is talking about 523 covers that it looked at. And it's breaking down what the covers were talking about. I mean, if it was 7% and Benny Mankiewicz said 95%, that would be an outrage. But never underestimate how wrong the Young Turks are. Never. Because it was not 7%, it was 7. 7 covers dealt with this. 7 covers dealt with this out of 523 over a 10-year span. 38 of the covers dealt with religion, 21 about Christians, 10 about other religions, 7 about Islam. Now, 7 out of 523 is 1.3%. So, Benny, in response to your little freak out there, it's not 95%, Ben. It's 1.3. You fucking moron. Now get on Twitter or bend Jenk's arm and make a video where you apologize to me personally. You sack of shit. Not 95%, Ben. 1.3. And guess who had the balls to mention to him in his face that he was wrong? It was Dave Rubin, who's done it time and time again about the Israel-Palestine conflict, about the role of Islam in the world and terrorism, about every issue, every current event that comes down the pipe. This guy is on top of it. No homo. Okay, he is spot on with his analysis. This is why the guy left the show. This guy is so spot on about his interpretation of current events that he decided to leave the Young Turks. But guess what? He's not done yet. Now, you know what Dave Rubin's up to? He is publicly calling out Cenk Uygur on his nonsense. So what do we have here? We have a series of tweets that Dave recently put out, which have gone unanswered. Ominously unanswered. So this is a friend of Cenk Uygur's. This is a former co-worker and colleague who is now in a public manner challenging Cenk on what he needs to be challenged on. Let's read. Cenk Uygur. It seems atheists are angry at you because you repeatedly misquote people about Islam, then compare everything to Christianity. You're doing exactly to atheists what you claim Sam Harris is doing to Muslims, which isn't even true. Atheists hold no power and generally stand up for all the principles you purport to believe in. You should be on the same side as Majid Nawaz and Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Nobody, not Sam Harris, not Majid Nawaz, not Ayaan Hirsi Ali, not Bill Maher, even Krauthammer are saying that it's all Muslims. You left Islam, right? You could help reform it to stand for the things you believe in, instead of attacking those who are trying to do that. Otherwise, you strengthen extremists on both sides yourself. And I say this as someone who hasn't read much of any of the 3 big texts, but bases my values on secular liberal ideas. So what you're seeing here is Dave Rubin publicly and respectfully addressing Cenk Uygur and calling him out for his ridiculous stance on the people in question here and on his blatant Muslim apologetics. This is the rift in the so-called left, which is such a wide tent that there's tons of room for people to be asked backwards while being left. And you know what Cenk's response to this was? Total and utter silence. Stonewalled. In the exact same way that he has stonewalled the entire world about his stance quote unquote, on the Armenian genocide. His silence on the Armenian genocide is an ongoing disgrace and humiliation. This is the equivalent of a Holocaust denier who has a platform. This guy is batshit and disgraceful and historically inaccurate, you might say. So let's all just take in the fact that Dave Rubin is a voice that we should all be in support of, and is a guy who's shaking things up and challenging people on their beliefs. He did it before, he did it while on the Young Turks, and now he's doing it afterwards. And guess who's unwilling to engage with him and even respond to him? Cenk Uygur. I would like for you to all be aware that this is taking place, and that there's a lot more to come from Dave Rubin. Be on the lookout and subscribe to his new channel.